So I found myself recently having a discussion with a friend of mine who said, "Hey, what's with all this Mondambi stuff that's going on? Like, why is it such a big deal?" And to be honest, it's not really a big deal. Mostly because he completely did a 180 on a lot of his policies that he said he was going to pass. So much to the chagrin of those who voted for him, yeah, it looks like there's probably not going to be any free buses for you. There's probably not going to be an additional tax. But I did want to discuss why, for so many people, socialism and then eventually communism seems so appealing, right? It seems like it's an ideology that would work really well. As some people say on paper, I don't even know if the math's on paper, but it seems like it would work really, really well for those who are broke. And this friend of mine who lives in California, um, had said, I don't really understand what the big deal is. But mind you, the reason why he probably felt that way is because the job market is very, very rough right now, especially for those who are Gen Z. They're not really experiencing the same levels of wealth that previous generations have managed to experience at the same age. He's 24, 23 now, and just struggling just to find a basic job. I know he's in school, but you still have to provide for yourself. You still have to eat. And so it it begs the question, why does it seem so appealing? Well, it appeals to people who've either A, never seen it implemented before, or B, are too young to understand the ramifications of such an ideology. To take from one group of people and then redistribute that wealth to everyone. Now, the top 1% earners roughly pay about 50% or so of the income tax that's collected in our country. Now, I am not a proponent of income tax at all. I don't think that we should be paying any type of income tax on, no matter if it's a marginal tax, no matter if it's a flat tax, no matter if it's a bracket tax. I don't care. I hate taxes completely. And the reason why is because it eliminates choice out of the matter. Now, if you're in the lower rungs of society, say lower middle class or upper lower class, however you can kind of make that work, you probably end up not being a net taxpayer anyway. And I've had people in the comments argue with me before and say, "Oh, well, you don't make enough money to pay taxes anyway." Well, money comes out of my check, and as far as I'm concerned, even if I get 100% of that money back during tax time, an interest-free loan interest-free loan to the government is never something I signed up for. I keep that money and then I'm able to distribute that money to work for me or move that money around to pay for goods and services I want. And I can opt into a tax. So a sales tax, I think, is fair because it's a tax that you can opt in and out of. Much in the same vein, I don't find that the government mandating that you pay a private company for a service or a product is very fair at all. And it's the same thing, like I consider about healthcare. Every American must have healthcare, or they'll be penalized. Well, you're then telling me I must pay for a product. So you're forcing me to have to work or make money to then pay for something from a private corporation. That's not very fair. It's the same thing when it comes to auto insurance as well, but it's not quite the same because you can just opt out of driving altogether. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic. Communism seems very, very attractive to people who are broke. I'm sorry, I'm one of the broke people, but I can see past tomorrow and I can see past my own nose, and I understand that if we break down the additional 2% tax on the highest income earners, like Mondami said, in New York City, meaning if you made over $1 million or more a year, an additional 2% tax, what does that end up being on $1 million? 20 grand? I don't know about you, but I would take my 20 grand and go home, because the people who have the most flexibility in life are the people who make the most money. So whether you have to be in New York City or not to make the money is not what I'm arguing. But a lot of people can say, "Hey, I've made my money. I've done my time. My bank account looks pretty good. I'll just leave and take the 20 grand and buy a used Toyota Camry." That seems like a better use of my money. It's just sad that people can't see past tomorrow. They only see what's today, and then people have this anger, especially younger people have this anger towards people who are rich, or wealthy. I don't have that. I never seem to have that. I never seem to have had that. I don't really care how much money someone makes. You'll probably more so hear me complain about income inequality and where it affects me personally. For example, if I work at a place and I'm barely scraping by on a meager salary that is offered, and there's no room for negotiation, versus the owner or the boss or the CEO, this is, and mind you, I'm talking about more so for a small business, is pulling in millions of dollars a year. Well, then we have to ask ourselves, how is that possible? Is it possible because the skill gap between the the service that I offer in an employee's capacity is so much different between what he offers as the employer or owner? Or is he exploiting my labor in order to make a ridiculous amount of money? And in some cases, it's either or. Some cases, it's a little bit of both. And that's when you typically see an employee get angry, because I don't really understand how anyone can work a job, especially a job that requires skill, and then not make a livable wage. If you're working low skill or no skill labor, well, then that's a problem right there. It's that the demand for your ability isn't there. And so therefore you get paid a meager wage. But if I'm in high demand and I offer a skill that's in high demand and it's not this low level skill, I should be not only paid for my experience, but for my education. And a lot of employers just don't see this, especially where I'm at. This is Indiana. There's a lot of people who think that we're still in the 80s and they want to pay like it's in the 80s or maybe even the 90s. I digress. Let's get back on topic. Communism seems very, very attractive because you're broke. And I don't mean to blanket everybody with that statement. It's just kind of a generalization. But yeah, it sounds great to take from the rich, give to the poor, take from the rich, distribute out, take from everybody, distribute it equally. But we have to understand that humans aren't equal. We may have equal representation in terms of our life value, like we all have value, but we're not equal. Some people are tall, some people are short, some people are big, some people are small, people are different. We know this on a fundamental level, and then yet we have the people who push DEI saying that all people are equal. It's like we might have equal value as far as human beings, but we're not equal. We're very different. We all have different goals. We all have different needs. As a result, humans are not interchangeable widgets that you can just move, or cogs that you can just move and slot into different spots. As a result, communism doesn't work because the market cannot be dictated from a centralized position. And so some people say, okay, fine, that's maybe too extreme. Socialism, then. We'll take a bit from everybody and then we'll redistribute it to then, take care of those who are on the lower end of society. Sounds awesome. Sounds great. But then wouldn't that create a reverse incentive for people to actually provide for themselves? Take it back to 150 years ago. I mean, where people were starving. I mean, America has been really fortunate to the point where we really didn't have a lot of starvation. But if we go back to the Great Depression, where people were lining up for bread lines, we have to understand that is the reality of the world. The reality of the world is that resources are limited. And so we should take from everybody to then provide to people who don't even have the incentive to get up and go to work in the morning. I mean, here I am on a Tuesday, technically my day off, and I'm going to work 2 jobs today. Maybe 3, depending if I get time to get in and do this brick job on this car. I still got to drop my kid off. The world doesn't stop just because I have a day off. As such, the world doesn't stop just because you don't want to work. And I don't mean you. I mean the proverbial you. The people who believe that taking from everybody, including themselves, to then distribute out to everybody is a good idea. But what they're failing, or what they're not saying, and I know they're not failing to do it, but what they're not saying is that this is by design, is because they know that they're not going to contribute nearly as much. So therefore, it's okay to take much, much more from myself or from you to then give to them. This all ties back into the SNAP benefits and things like that. And yes, SNAP is going to be funded now. I blame both the Democrats and the Republicans for the shutdown, but SNAP is going to be funded, at least temporarily. And when we get to the point where we need to decide what the next stage of our government's going to be and the next funding bill, then it's going to happen yet again. The government's going to get shut down because we're so polarized that we cannot understand that we're not going to see eye to eye. I'm more so in the middle, maybe center right leaning, but more libertarian. And so a lot of it I just choose to stay out of. But we're not going to see eye to eye with people who don't have the same values as each other. Now, we used to have a centralized identity. And maybe America of the 50s, 60s, and 70s could have pulled off a bit of socialism. But the America of today, it's not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is because we're a vastly different people, not just left, right, and center, but we're vastly different people with different values. We don't want the same things. We can't agree on how the money should be spent and who it's in the best interest of. The right wants to spend it on the military and the left wants to spend it on illegal immigrants. I mean, at least that's what it seems like. And yes, I do use the term illegal immigrants properly. If you enter the country from a non-designated port of entry, you have officially entered into the country illegally. Therefore, you're an illegal immigrant. And if you choose to stay, it's additional crime. I don't want to mince words here. I'm not in favor of it. I think that it displaces people from their homes. I think it drives up the cost of a lot of things, such as housing, fuel, groceries, commodities. Those things all go up in cost because there's more people who are demanding them. As demand increases, price can also increase. It's very simple. And yes, we do need more people in this country, but we're not going to get way off track here. It's going to look very, very appealing to young people, because what do you expect a group of people to do who have been disparaged by the country that they grew up in or that they were born in? They were told to go to college. They were told to chase that degree, finish your degree, keep your nose clean, and then boom, you'll be fine. You'll be successful. But there are no jobs. The economy has only improved marginally. If we count the economy as the stock market, it's improved greatly. But the stock market's not the reality for most people. Most people's reality is, can I get a job? What's the cost of groceries? And has my rent gone up? And for young people all across this country, it has become absolutely unaffordable. So what do you expect? A group of people who cannot tap into the same things that their parents could tap into at their same age. What do you expect them to think? They're going to think, okay, the system needs to be rewritten overall. This is not working. And what worked 30 years ago is not working today. It's the same thing I say, but maybe my solution to the problem is different. It's not socialism or communism, but it's really easy for the common man to come to this point to say, we just need no more rich people and that will do it. No, that's just envy, greed, jealousy. That's what that is. The point that I'm trying to get at is for those people who don't understand where the young people are coming from, try to think back to where you were in your 20s. Try to think back to where you were in your late teens when you were coming out of high school, or maybe when you were going to college, or maybe you didn't go to college and you went to the trades. What was the economic situation for you? I would love to hear about it in the comments. Obviously, it's been hard for a while, right? And I don't necessarily mean hard, and I always have to do this thing where I have to let the people know before they get in the comment section, we live in the most, richest country in the world and things aren't that hard. And back in my day, I had to walk up. I don't care about any of that. What I'm saying is I want to know, to achieve the American dream, how hard was it back for you 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago for some? What did that look like for you? And then contrast that to today. Yes, We are very rich. Yes. No one is starving. Yes, we have air conditioners everywhere. Everybody has access to information. It's so easy to get it. Everyone has a smartphone. And yes, it more than likely is $1,000 smartphone that's in their pocket. But when everybody has something, no one has something. There's no advantage there. You know, the advantage of holding something is that no one else has it. And that's what gives it value. If everyone has a smartphone and everyone has the internet and everyone, then no one has it. And it's the same reason why UBI is going to be terrible. Because let's say the government decides that everybody should get $2,000. Well, then no one has $2,000, and you'll find that your base expenses for everything goes up by $2,000 a month. That's just what it comes up to be. Now, UBI could be implemented in a way where it's structured kind of based on where you were before AI took over. So like if you made like 60 grand, you know, maybe you'll be brought down to like 38,000 under UBI, and then you can kind of make up the rest. I don't know, maybe there'll be some type of way to supplement your income. Maybe the government will have some type of hourly work requirement. It's really hard to say exactly how it could be implemented, but it seems like that's going to be the reality of the situation very, very quickly. UBI, for those who don't know, is universal basic income, where the government essentially redistributes income to everybody. And I'm not a fan of this at all. I think that that's going to be terrible, because just like I told you, we're all different. We all have different needs. And then we all have different tolerances of what we would like to spend. So obviously giving it to us as a cash benefit is better than giving us, you know, rations, sure. But it doesn't make it any better that the government now is giving it to everybody, because now that everyone has it, no one has it. And you'll find that your rent will go up. Anyways, to wrap this video up, we're not going to argue that because your belly is full that we're rich. We're not going to argue that because you have a refrigerator, you're rich. We're not going to argue because you have an air conditioner, you're rich. Those are now the basic standards of living. What we're trying to prevent is future slippage of the standard of living, right? Do we want to be in a spot where now the average American can't be on a plane and can't drive a car? Do we want that? Obviously, yes, there's an issue with automotive transport in this country. We should have more public transport, sure. But want and need are two different things. Do we want to be in a position where people don't even have a choice anymore? That does not sound like a type of future I want to be part of, and it doesn't sound like the type of America I grew up thinking we would eventually become. Think for a second. Mondami is only a symptom of a larger problem. He said all the right words and got elected, and he may have reversed 100%, but it's scary to think that a bunch of people voted for him because he said, hey, vote for me and you're going to get free stuff. And people said, that sounds great. I'll tell you a little thing about me. Maybe you don't know. I don't like free stuff. I don't want free stuff. I don't value things that are given to me for free. I only value the things that I go work hard for. Maybe I'm different. I don't think I'm that different. I think most people are that way. Most people want to make something of themselves, build something for themselves, use their own two hands and their own idea and their own mind to make something great. And we can't do that when we're constantly just spinning our wheels in the mud, trying to figure out how do we keep a roof over our head in the most ridiculous economy I've seen since I began working. And I've been working since I was like 13, right? Just little stuff, you know, little small part-time jobs with my family. But I've been working for that long, and I've been spending money for just as long. And so this is probably some of the worst I've ever seen. Yeah, gas is relatively affordable. Grocery prices and commodities have come down. But it still sucks. My rent still keeps going up every single year. It goes up. No matter if I'm going to, you know, stay in the same place, go to someplace else, it always seems to get more and more expensive. Homeownership. Let's not even get started to talk about why people don't feel like they can afford a home. The average home buyer is now 38 years old. Average, not median, average. Average meaning if you take the total sum of the most oldest home buyers first time and the youngest home buyers, average amount, that's what you get. a lot of people, they use that term and they just think, oh, that means that most people, no, most people would be median. Median, most people, the most middle occurring number in the data set. Median, the most median home buyer. I don't know what that age is. I don't know that statistic off the top of my head. I don't have another phone to look it up. But just keep that in mind, is that the average home buyer is now 38 years old. It's taking quite a lot for people to build equity in this country, for people to have skin in the game in this country. It's taking quite a long time. And now we got 50-year mortgages. Come on, man, that's a stupid idea. It's a silly, silly idea. Yes, mortgage means death payment or death loan, whatever, death agreement. So, when it was originally invented, most people didn't expect to pay it off. But now people do expect to pay it off, even at 30 years. 50 years? We can't pay it off. That's a long time. Not to mention the higher interest rate is going to make it just absolutely unaffordable. Unless, of course, there was a way where it was structured so most of the interest for the loan was paid kind of in the first 25 to 30% of it. It was kind of structured in a way, or maybe had like a shrinking interest rate or something. Maybe that could work if it was government subsidized. But once again, here we go, talk about government printing more money. That's stupid, just to stimulate the economy. And does it really stimulate the economy? Because most people who buy homes, when they sell their home, they just buy another home. Most people don't hang on to that money and spend it elsewhere. So who are you making rich in that case? The banks? God, man, the monetary policy in this country is absolutely destroyed. We're in debt over our heads. And I don't know what can be done about it. But all I do know is this. It's a lot of young people are sick of it. I'm sick of it. I wouldn't even consider myself one of the young people, but I'm sick of it. There's no way in the world where I should have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make this happen. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. As always, subscribe if you haven't already, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.